Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT News at 6.
Just lucky. That's all I can say is lucky.
A man thankful to be alive months after surviving a brutal attack in southern Kentucky.
What they've done here is created what I call a killer head.
WKYT investigates driving into danger, what a former engineer says is wrong with hundreds of guardrails in Kentucky.
And hear from a man who survived a 3-story fall out a window. WKYT News at 6 starts now. Good evening and thanks for being here with us. Robbed, beaten, and left for dead. Tonight, a southern Kentucky man talks to us for the first time since that horrible ordeal.
Derek Cassey is still recovering from serious injuries, but today he was in a Rockcastle County courtroom as the man charged with attacking him, Jason Gambrell, pled guilty. First, a warning, you may find some of this video disturbing. Phil Pendleton has our top story at 6.
Derek Cassey is hardly the man he used to be.
Just lucky. That's all I can say is lucky.
Lucky to be alive after surviving a beating that police and his family say should have killed him. And today,
I just struck him in the head.
Okay, who's he?
Derek Cassey.
Okay, and why did you strike him in the head?
Over money and drugs.
Jason Gambrell admitted to the crime. He was charged with attempted murder, but today pleaded guilty to assault in exchange for a recommended 14-year prison sentence.
I'm just glad it's all over with and lucky to be here.
We did learn today that Jason Gambrell and Derek Cassey were co-workers. They are both from Pulaski County, but they came here to this abandoned limestone quarry. We also know that Derek Cassey was planning on buying a car, and that's why he had $700 on him that night. Police say Cassey was robbed of that money. It says he has no memory of being at the quarry.
I have no idea. The only thing I remember is just walking out the doors at work. Other than that, I don't remember anything.
Gambrell's mother says the crime came the result of a severe drug problem.
If anybody's ever on drugs, they need to get help while they can. Because you never know, they'll mess you up.
Cassey says he still requires some mental health care from his injuries. In Rockcastle County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
Cassey's family says his medical bills are more than $100,000. Today, the judge said Gambrell should pay for that as part of his sentence.
Thanksgiving Day could begin with some wintry weather across parts of Kentucky. Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey is tracking the chances for some snow. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Amber. Some of that already showing up across far western Kentucky, courtesy of a clipper system. Yeah, we're talking about a clipper very early this year. You normally get that deep into wintertime, not so much on Thanksgiving Eve. Here's the system, though, that is spinning up across the St. Louis area. Rain and snow breaking out into western Kentucky, southern parts of Illinois. That is diving its way toward the southeast, so precipitation will quickly increase from west to east. Now, if you're looking for accumulating snows, the best chance for snows tonight will be south of the Lexington Metro across southern and southeastern parts of Kentucky. And even there, it's going to begin as a period of some lighter rain. So if you're out this evening, and for holiday travelers especially, clouds will continue to thicken up by 9 o'clock this evening. Temperatures are into the mid and upper 30s. We're going to see that mix of rain and snow beginning to develop to our west. That will overspread the region by around 11 o'clock, and especially those areas to the south picking up on a light snowfall to begin our Thanksgiving Day. We'll track that light snow maker in greater detail on Defender, guys, here in about 10 minutes.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. If you are planning to hit the road tonight to get somewhere for Thanksgiving, you're going to have plenty of company.
Now, roads around the Bluegrass are pretty much packed with holiday traffic right now. This is a live look at Interstate 75 in Lexington. Some people are traveling by air, but a winter storm on the East Coast has caused a lot of flight cancellations and some delays. So is it having an impact back here in Kentucky, in Lexington? Jordan Valines joins us live now from Bluegrass Airport. Jordan, good evening.
That's right. Several flights here at the Bluegrass Airport are currently delayed. Those delays ranging anywhere from 15 minutes to more than an hour. Now, the departing flights that are currently delayed include those to Charlotte, Houston, and Chicago. And the incoming flights that are delayed include those from Knoxville, Chicago, Detroit, and Houston, among several others. Some travelers here at the Bluegrass Airport kept their eyes trained on the flight status board today, making sure their travel plans weren't aren't ruined. These delays are even affecting many folks who are not flying. We spoke with a man who drove to the airport to pick up his sister who was flying in from Houston, only to learn that her flight had been delayed once more.
They were going all right, but it's delayed, like you said, I think now an hour. It's a whole lot busier than it usually is. Yeah. Usually there's nobody here.
Right now, there are only delays here at the Bluegrass Airport. So far, there have not been any cancellations. Live in Lexington, Jordan Valines, WKYT.
AAA expects more than 46 million Americans will travel at least 50 miles away from home over the Thanksgiving holiday.
Some holiday travelers could be driving into danger. We have discovered the state believes there are possibly hundreds of dangerous guardrails in Kentucky, but they don't know where they are. Now, one man is making it his mission to have those guardrails replaced. Here's Miranda Combs and a WKYT investigation.
They are meant to catch you, save you.
It's actually a work of art when they work.
But Joshua Harmon says there's plenty in Kentucky that don't work.
What they've done here is created what I call a killer head.
Harmon is a former engineer specializing in guardrails.
Probably 2011.
Currently, though, he's the plaintiff in a federal lawsuit against Trinity Industries.
What I'm looking for is when they made the 4-inch.
A company that makes guardrail end treatments. We spent an afternoon traveling around southern Kentucky with Harmon. He can spot what he calls a faulty guardrail end treatment at 70 miles an hour. We stopped on I-75 for an unexpected illustration of his argument.
Wadded up like this is something I haven't seen to this magnitude. Yes, the 4-inch always fails. I've never found a 4-inch to work.
Harmon says sometime in the mid-2000s, Trinity changed the dimensions of the guardrail end treatments from the approved 5-inch models to a 4-inch model.
This is a 4-inch.
But he says Trinity never told the federal government about the change, and Harmon says that 1-inch difference.
The difference between life and death.
We're unaware of an issue with this guardrail end treatment in Kentucky.
But state transportation spokesman Chuck Wolf says the cabinet has been following the court case started by Harmon. A jury did find Trinity Industries guilty of fraud last month and ordered them to pay upwards of $175 million.
A product recall. That's what has to happen. It's never been about the money for me.
The Federal Highway Administration estimates there are about 200,000 ET Plus guardrails. Those are the 4-inch ones Harmon says are deadly, lining roads across the U.S.
Shorten it this way an inch. The height of this channel is under 15 inches. The original one's 15 and a half.
In Kentucky, there are hundreds, but that's only an educated guess. Wolf says they have records of 528 new guardrail projects, possibly involving the end treatments in question since 2007. That's when they started keeping a database. Wolf says that work is contracted out, so an exact number is not easy or cheap.
We will have to do an inventory of all our guardrail end treatments to know for sure. You have to pretty much just go and eyeball each one of them and see what brand is stamped in or around them.
04, Trinity 04. So this was put in 04.
On our trip with Harmon, all we found were what he calls the faulty end treatments until 2 hours into our search.
This is what was approved. Let's say you don't have any drop. All you have is the bead, but it's not drop.
Recently, the federal government gave the okay for Trinity to test the end treatments in question. Crash tests are being conducted now in Texas. Wolf says the state is on hold until they see the results of those tests.
If there's a real need for replacing all these parts, then that will have to be done.
Too much expense, though.
Probably several $1 million, but the Secretary has said we will do whatever needs to be done.
But Harmon says there's no need to wait for results. He believes Trinity is just buying time to avoid paying the price of righting a wrong.
That's a charade. They're not even testing what's on the highway.
And Kentucky did ban the use of the ET Plus, and a couple of days after that, Trinity stopped selling them while the crash tests are underway. Now, those tests are happening now through January, guys.
And until those are done, Kentucky just waiting?
They are, because if they go ahead and replace the end caps, we'll first find them and then replace them. Like he said, that's going to be millions of dollars, so they might as well wait until this crash test comes out, and maybe it'll be to their advantage.
Massive job to get all this fixed. And
very massive.
Okay, thanks, Miranda. He survived a terrifying fall. Last weekend, investigators say a man fell out of a third-floor window of a building on the Morehead State University campus. Late this afternoon, he was released from UK Hospital. New at 6, WKYT's Victor Puente talks to him about the fall.
This is the window 20-year-old Cody Richmond fell from early Saturday morning. He says he was in Morehead visiting a friend.
Just get to drinking, carrying on.
That somehow led him to the Baird Music Building, where he fell from the third floor.
The only thing I remember is actually coming to in the hospital and trying to sit up and not comprehending the fact that my back was broken and that I couldn't sit up.
Since the fall, he's been at UK Hospital, recovering from a shattered ankle, broken leg, and broken back. His friends and some co-workers from O'Charlie's have been the only ones to visit.
Normally I go through things by myself because I don't really have anybody.
His injuries aren't the only problem Cody's facing. Now that he's out of the hospital, he doesn't have anywhere to live.
I've been homeless for about 3 months, but I've been making it.
Richmond said he doesn't really speak to his family, although they did call after they heard about his fall. His co-workers were in the process of raising money to help him get an apartment when he had his accident.
I mean, the kid really doesn't have anybody. His friends from the past, his family, they really have not done anything until now.
Now that money will also be used to help pay for medical bills. They plan on setting out a bucket at the Harrodsburg Road O'Charlie's for donations. Richmond says he's learned a lesson and hopes to be back at work within a month.
I did have somebody looking out after me. I had to have been.
This kid deserves a better start.
In Lexington, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Morehead officials have said the building that Richmond fell from was locked at the time. 12 days ago, a Lexington family did not know if their 14-year-old would make it or not. Today, they received a wonderful surprise just in time for Thanksgiving. In the story we're working on for WKYT at 11, Mason Wade, an 8th grader at Lexington Christian Academy, suffered critical injuries. An SUV slammed into him as he tried to run across Man o' War Boulevard. His dad, Mark, says it's the worst call he's ever received.
Yeah, initially we thought that he was going to die. The first indication was that he was in critical condition, but we also have our faith, and we felt like he was going to make it. I mean, I just kept saying to Mark, he's going to be okay, he's going to be okay. Don't worry, he's going to be okay. Yes. And we're
When Mason woke up this morning at Cardinal Hill Rehabilitation Hospital, he had no idea his wish would come true for Thanksgiving. Our exclusive story at 11 tonight on Prayers Answered, a determined young man and his family's faith. Lexington police and the city's traffic department have announced their plan to keep shoppers safe this holiday season.
They say they've already changed the timing of the traffic lights and posted signs about the traffic plan around Fayette Mall, Hamburg Pavilion, and downtown Lexington. Extra police officers will be in the Hamburg and Fayette Mall areas to handle traffic and prevent crime. And police say lock your car doors and put anything valuable in the trunk.
We'd also ask you to pay attention to your surroundings. If you see something that just doesn't seem right, call us, move to a safer location. An officer will be dispatched out to check out that area.
Traffic officials estimate 70,000 cars will use Nicholasville Road every day through Sunday.